think you can hear that. Hello again, everyone. Solar cap checker. In this video, we're going to go over the features of this. We are going to test it out to see if it works. Whether it works or not, I'm going to take it apart and we'll look inside and see if any repairs have been done or if we need to do any repairs. So let's get started. This is a model CB-1-60, and this will check leakage on caps, and it will check the value of caps. And you can select either paper caps or electrolytics. And that works by a rotating knob. And we have an eye tube that opens and closes as you read the value of the cap you're testing. So that's pretty standard for most cap checkers back in the day. The leakage works with a lamp, and it will check leakage on caps from up to 500 volts. This is 100, 200, 3, 4, and 5. It'll also check resistors if you want to use it for that. Most people just use it for the cap checker, but it will do resistors also. So let's put some power to it and see if it works. I really suspect that it probably will because it has a new cord on it. Unless they restored it internally and make it to working condition, they won't put a new cord on. So let's plug it up. And we'll turn it on. Okay, the eye tube is coming on. This will test caps from 0.0001 all the way up to 70 mic. And there's different scales. The red scale is 0.1 to 70, and when you're testing the value, you put it on the red block. The C2 scale is 0.001 to 0.7. Then the last scale, C3, is 0.0001 to 0.004. So you should be able to check about any cap unless it's over 70 mic. Now then, it won't test those. Alright, this is just a paper cap. It's a 0.47. So, didn't get any leads for this, but I can find some of those or make some. That's some old terminals. We're going to plug this 0.47 and we put it where it says condenser right there. Those first two terminals. Let's check for leakage. We're on paper cap. Now the way this works, this lamp will blink as you increase the voltage. And if you have a good cap, which this is a new cap, so I'm sure it's good, then we can go all the way up to 500 volts. And we may see a blink occasionally on the right side. But unless you get a constant blink or a fast blink, then that cap is good. So here we go. That's 100. And we're seeing just a little flash. That's 200. 3, 4, there's 500. So that tells us that cap is good, no leakage. Now we're going to go to the value. As you rotate this dial, that eye tube will start to open. and it starts to close. And you want to stop where it opens. And this is 0.5, so that's reading right on it. And when you're through, you want to set this back to 0, and that discharges the cap. You might get a little shock if you pull a cap out that's had 500 volts applied to it. That's the way that works. Alright, now let's check an electrolytic. So we want to turn it to electrolytic. And this is a 47 mic. Now this is a 450 volt cap, so I'm putting 500 volts into it, so we'll go back to 400. And no leakage. Now let's check the value. And we want to go on the red scale. Here's 70 mic, there's 40. So we'll go red scale. Let's see what we got. Okay, we're widening out. Right in there. And we're right on just past the 40 mic. So this is a 47, so yes, it's working. Let's turn it off, unplug it. I'm going to take it apart. I think you can hear that. I'll take it apart and look it over, see what we got inside. Screws with a regular head. Well, we have had some repairs on this. You see these new caps, paper caps. That's good. And we got a couple of new electrolytics over here. And this is what's flopping around. So we're going to change this electrolytic. And I learned something in replacing this big one. This is a 2 mic 100 volt. And that is critical. I had a 4.7. So I thought, well, that'll work. But it won't either. It will. With a 4.7 mic, the capacitance reading is off. So that's a critical cap, this one here. So I ended up digging up a 2 mic, and that's under this cloth tape. I just got it mounted directly to this switch. And it works fine. What they've done here, they've tied 2 22 mics together, which would give you approximately 11 mics. And that's replacing one section of this 2-section cap. But the second section, they have not replaced the electrolytic in it, and probably that one still checks okay, but I went ahead and put a new one. There's a positive lead, and I just used this terminal for the ground terminal strip. And I cut the wire loose. That's what you see there. Now on this one that they've put this 11 mic in to replace this section, they haven't cut the old one loose, so I think I'll do that. I don't like to leave old caps hooked up because they could short. Probably won't, but it's possible. So you can see the yellow lead coming out of this box. That's the one that they've subbed a 2 in place of. Let me see if I can dig up one that's a little closer in value. It's supposed to be 4 mic, and that's 10 or 11, so let's see if I can find something a little closer. And I was able to change this. I went with a 4.7, that's a 425 volt cap, so I had a 450. That's that. Even though it's small, that's what that is. So we replaced those two with this one. Replace this one for this section here. Replace the 2 mic that affects the capacity reading. Put a new one in, took that old big one out. And then I've cut both the leads going to this original electrolytic. We'll leave that box in, but we'll cut these leads off because don't need them anymore. And I put in a 22 mic. First we'll check the capacitance. There's a wide scale. And there's 15. That's 40, so we're right in between. Pretty close. And we'll check leakage. There's 100 volts, 200, 300, 400, and 500. Of course, a new cap, but that tells us that that cap has no leakage. And we'll make sure we discharge. Go back to 0. And before we put the cap checker back together, now why not check the 2 tubes? This is a 1-V rectifier, and my chart has a 1 listed, so I thought, well, we'll try that. And it's lighting up, and it tests good. The I tube 6E5. Let's see if I can test it. Obviously, we know this tube's good, but because the eye's working correctly, but just for kicks, let's check it and see. The filament control is 6, and that tells us our filaments are good. And we want 2 and 3, and it checks good. Now, there's additional instructions on how to make this eye light up. You just change your settings to 4701, and test switches are on 2 and 4. So we got 4, 7, 0. 1's a filament return, and it's good. It makes it light up. Okay, both tubes back in. Thought I would show you how this leakage test works. This cap is a 200 volt, 22 at 200. So watch what happens. That's 100 volts, came on, went off. 200 came on, went off. We go to 300, we're still okay. We go to 400, you can see that neon stays lit. So that's putting too much voltage into that cap. And let's see if it checks. It's the widest point. And we're between 15 and 30 mic, and that's a 22, so working okay. Wipe the front off. It's in pretty good shape. I am going to put a new pointer, or take some paint and make a point for the center of this dial. Would be a little easier to identify. It's kind of wore down and scratched up, but we'll take some red paint, put a little pointer on that. A little wider than the original one was, I'm sure, but still be able to tell what the value of a capacitor is. So. And I printed this. This is instructions on how to use this. Just making a simple top to put on the tester. I have all my pieces cut out. This is the inside where the hinges will go. And I've even dug up a couple of hinges I had down here in the shop. And I'm just using like 1/4 inch plywood around the outside. This is 1/2 inch here where the hinge part is. But I couldn't use the 1/2 inch all the way around because it would hit the screws that hold the tester into the box. So this gives me my lip that will set on the outside of the screws. And that's not very strong, so to beef it up, make it stronger, I just cut these pieces of oak plywood. I'll glue these together like that. There's the other side. We'll get them glued up. Then we'll glue this piece to this opposite side. Then once these 3 pieces dry, then we'll take a brad nailer and put some brads into these pieces. Then we'll have us a top. Got some rain going on here at Creekview Acres, so hope you can hear me okay. But our parts have dried, and I just set everything on there to see what it looked like, and I think we've got a pretty good fit. So now I'm going to glue the sides and the front piece, and then put those brad nails to help hold it. We'll try these 1¼ inch brads. No clamp needed here, so just make sure that it's pushed up against the sides. See how it fits. Wide part goes to the hinge. Very good. Get these old hinges off. Let's go ahead and take the handle and the latch off, because we're going to do just a little bit of sanding and put some stain on this cabinet. All right, let's take the latch off too. First, I'm going to fit the hinge, see if we can get it put on. Make sure it works okay. Fortunately, these dados are a perfect match for the new hinge. One thing I could do is dado this in. In other words, cut the material out where the hinge will set flush like it does here on the cabinet. I think that's what I'm going to do. But it does fit good. So I'm going to mark it, and then we'll see if we can cut that out. Using my fence, and I can see my marks here, so setting the fence to where the blade will cut right at the edge of that mark. And we're going to run it through, and we'll stop right in here. Now I'll move my fence and just watch where I'm cutting with the blade and go back and forth and cut all of that material out. Now let's see how we did. couple of screws to test it. And this would look better with some brass screws, and I may pick up a package of those to replace these. But for now, I'll go ahead and put these in so we'll have our hose set where the screws go. Well, after checking my hardware supply once more, I had some brass screws. And I just got a few of them in there just to make sure it still works okay. But I had plenty of these. And they're the old flathead that looks original, so that's even better. And after just a real light sanding, I didn't want to make this look like a brand new cabinet because it's an old tester, so just done a little bit of light sanding. And we mixed some stain. We used a maple, I call it. It's a light early American stain. And we mixed some dark walnut, just a little bit in it. That's what we ended up with. And it's just slightly darker than the original, so I think that's going to work okay. And using a brush to get down the crevices. I'm going to stop right there. I've played around with different mixtures of stain. And that's about as close as I can come up with. So we'll let that dry and then put a coat of polyurethane on and call it done. All right, stain's dry. Install the hinges. Make it a little easier to spray on the polyurethane. So we'll spray the box first, and then the outside of the lid, and we'll let the lid down and spray the top. Using Varathane semi-gloss. While we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to go do some cleaning on these two handle retainers and that latch. Here's what I made for the latch to make it work. Just took a brass screw, ground the head down to where the latch would go over it. And that holds the top. Here's those instructions on how to use the tester. And I printed these as large as I could. Let me show you. Probably the original wasn't quite that large, but the larger the better. Makes it easier to read. So we're just going to glue that in there. Everything put back together. Now the most important thing, with the lid closed with the tester mounted back in, and we've got to kind of roll the cord like that and to make it all fit. Let's see how it works. Hey, and it's shut. And that's going to wrap it up on the Solar CB-1-60 repair and restore. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Well, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, how about giving us a like and subscribing to our channel. Thanks.